In the torch-lit groves of Thrace, where ancient oaks whispered secrets to the wind, Orpheus strummed his golden lyre beneath a canopy of storm-dark skies. His fingers danced like fleeting shadows over the strings, coaxing melodies that bent the very air, songs of unyielding love for Eurydice, his bride whose laughter once rivaled the dawn. She moved through the sacred glade that fateful afternoon, her bare feet brushing dew-kissed ferns, when from the underbrush slithered death itself, a viper coiled in silent ruin, its fang piercing her heel like a decree from the fates. Eurydice crumpled amid the long shadows of the grove, her final breath a ragged echo swallowed by the earth. Orpheus rushed to her side, his lyre falling silent as her eyes dimmed to glassy voids. The Thracian hills, once alive with their shared joy, now rang with his raw lament, a wail that shattered birds from the branches and stirred the nymphs from their hidden springs. He cradled her lifeless form, her skin cooling like marble under torchlight, as grief carved hollows into his immortal-given beauty. Son of Apollo and the muse Calliope, Orpheus possessed a voice that tamed wild beasts and swayed rivers, yet it availed him nothing against this thief in the grass. Days blurred into nights of unrelenting sorrow. Orpheus wandered the silent ruins of their wedding bower, his lyre now a vessel for dirges that chilled the stars. Lovers in Thrace shunned embraces, fearing the serpent's curse, while echoes of his grief rippled through sacred groves, stirring the chthonic powers below. No mortal right could reclaim her, only the underworld's iron gates held the promise of reversal. With lyre in hand and heart aflame, Orpheus resolved to descend through realms where heroes quailed and shades drifted in eternal dusk, driven by love's desperate cord, heedless of the perils that guarded Hades' throne. The path southward wound past storm-lashed cliffs and into caverns where torch-lit corridors yawned like forgotten oaths. Charon's ferry sliced the Styx's black waters, the boatman's eyes gleaming with indifference as Orpheus paid the obol from his own tongue. Cerberus, the three-headed hound, lowered its jaws at the sound of his strings, saliva dripping like rain in the gloom. Through asphodel fields where pallid souls milled in silence, Orpheus pressed on, his melody a fragile thread piercing the veil of death's domain. At last, the shadowed throne loomed, Hades enthroned in obsidian, Persephone beside him like a wilted bloom, both unmoved by mortal pleas, until Orpheus began to play. His strings awoke in the throne room's vast hush, notes cascading like silver rain through the torch-lit corridors of Hades' domain. Orpheus stood before the Lord of the Dead, lyre gleaming faintly amid swirling shades, his voice rising in a plea woven from divine heritage, son of Apollo's fire and Calliope's verse. Hades, stern as forged iron, gripped his scepter. Persephone's gaze softened like frost under dawn, yet the underworld's laws brooked no exception. No soul returned from these depths, not even for the gods favored. But as the melody swelled, filling the obsidian hall with echoes of sunlit groves and lovers' vows, tears traced paths down immortal cheeks, first Persephone's, then the unyielding king's. The music pierced the gloom, halting the judges of the dead in their shadowed deliberations, silencing the Furies' distant shrieks. Orpheus sang of Eurydice's stolen breath, her form lost to a serpent's whim, his words conjuring the sacred glade where death had ambushed joy. Hades relented, his voice rumbling like subterranean stone. She would follow, but he must not turn, not glance back through the long ascent until light crowned the exit. One backward look, and she would dissolve into shadow forever. Orpheus bowed, heart pounding beneath his chiton, and the throne room exhaled as Eurydice emerged, pale, ethereal, her steps faint echoes in the perpetual dusk. They began the climb, Orpheus leading through winding paths where torch flames licked obsidian walls, casting long shadows that danced like hesitant ghosts. The air grew heavier with each step, the Styx's murmur behind, replaced by the drip of unseen waters and the hush of drifting souls. Eurydice trailed, her presence a whisper, footsteps so soft they might have been the wind's sigh through cracked stone. Orpheus gripped his lyre, fingers aching from the descent's toll, his mind a tempest of hope and dread. The gods' mercy was fickle. Tales of heroes whispered of traps in these corridors, divine whims that snatched triumph at the threshold. Higher they rose, past fields of asphodel, where pallid figures stirred at the lyre's lingering hum, eyes hollow with envy. The path narrowed, torch-lit turns amplifying every sound, or the lack thereof. Orpheus strained to hear her, called her name softly into the void, but only his own voice returned, bouncing off silent ruins. Doubt crept like mist. Had Hades deceived? Was she truly there, or a phantom lured by his song? The exit loomed, a pinprick of daylight piercing storm-dark skies above, freedom so near, yet the silence behind gnawed like Cerberus's fangs. His pulse thundered, love's cord trembled on the brink of breaking. The threshold glowed ahead, a sliver of mortal light slicing through the Underworld's eternal veil, promising reunion amid the sacred groves of Thrace. Orpheus's boots scraped against the final incline, each step echoing louder in the narrowing corridor, torch flames guttering as fresher air stirred their dance. Behind him, silence reigned absolute. No rustle of Eurydice's chiton, no faint cadence of her breath, only the void's mocking hush where footsteps should have affirmed her presence. Doubt coiled like the serpent that claimed her, whispering through the long shadows. Had Hades' mercy been a cruel jest? Had the shades reclaimed her mid-ascent, dissolving her into asphodel dust? His hand tightened on the lyre, strings silent now as the weight of the pact pressed like subterranean stone. Love, that fierce and fragile force, warred with trust, visions of her form flickering in his mind, pale and fading, urging him to verify, to seize certainty before the light swallowed all. The exit beckoned, mere paces away, storm-dark skies parting above like the fates' reluctant nod. Unable to bear the absence of sound any longer, Orpheus turned. His gaze pierced the gloom, locking eyes with Eurydice one final heartbeat, her silhouette suspended in twilight, outstretched hand inches from salvation. In that instant, the god's decree shattered her. She unraveled into swirling mist, a sigh lost to the depths, vanishing forever as the corridor's echoes claimed her shadow. Orpheus staggered into daylight, the lyre slipping from numb fingers, crashing amid dew-kissed ferns where their tale began. Thrace's hills stood indifferent, sacred groves whispering of irreversible loss, while he collapsed in torment, his voice now a broken dirge that no longer swayed the stars. Maenads, frenzied in wine-dark rites, would later tear him limb from limb, his head floating down river still singing her name, yet even that severed chorus could not pierce the underworld's iron gates again. Eurydice remained below, a shade among silent ruins, her second death etched by a glance born of mortal frailty. In the myth's unyielding arc, Orpheus's turn reveals the chasm between desire and decree, a single moment where human weakness fractures divine concession, dooming love to eternal separation. Fate, that inexorable weaver, tests not strength but surrender, demanding faith in the unseen amid echoing voids and torchlit perils. Doubt, the serpent in every sacred glade, claims more than flesh, it severs the soul's fragile thread, leaving only long shadows where footsteps once promised return. The cost lingers in every hero's trial. To glance back is to lose not just the beloved, but the illusion of control over the god's shadowed whims. What remains is the hollow lyre's echo, a warning carved in myth's stone. Trust unbroken yields no second ascent, only the storm-dark sky's contemplative gaze upon our ruins. Thanks for joining this journey through mythic sleep tales. If these timeless echoes resonate, subscribe for more legends that haunt the night.